Glad you made it back to clinic for your wellness visit, Fred. You tell me you've been walking 10,000 steps a day and you've been tracking it on your fitness tracker? I love it. Unfortunately, your back still hurts and you have a hard time picking things off the ground. Well, first, I want to commend you on the fact that you're moving your body quite a bit every day. But the human being has a lot of different ways that we can move. We can climb, we can bend, we can push, we can pull, and I'd like to show you just a few more things that I think would help round out your muscular development and keep you pain-free and moving for the next few years. Thanks for coming back for our follow-up, Fred. I can see that you've been using the pulling technique we've talked about using an old bike tire. That's great. There's an uncountable ways that we can move the human body in order to get stronger, move better, be more flexible, live longer, etc. And it's impossible to go over all of them, but today I would like to talk about a few basics so that you can start to develop a program for yourself. The first level is what I call push, pull, legs, and core. We want to find a way that a couple times a week we're going to do some form of a pulling motion, some form of a pushing motion, something to make our legs stronger, and something to make our core stronger. Fred here is demonstrating a rubber band row. Do you mind if I give it a shot just to show the audience a couple pointers? We can do pulling exercises in a number of ways. You can use a rubber band or a bike tire attached to a doorknob or a pole, and we want to focus on starting with ears over shoulders over hips. We want to keep our shoulder down and back. And when we pull, we want to bring our wrist in next to our rib cage. We don't want to pull our hand to our shoulder with our elbow flared out like this, because that can pinch on the rotator cuff and give us some other shoulder problems. So find an exercise where you can do pulling motions 10 to 15 times, like so. You can use a rubber band like this, or another one of my favorites is a towel wrapped around a door handle or knotted up and put behind a door or wrapped around a pole of some sort, and just gently leaning back with your own body weight. Can you pull yourself forward using the towel? This is also great for hand strength. Nice and easy. Once again, ears over shoulders, over hips. I'm pulling my elbows into my ribs and not pulling my elbows up and wrists into my shoulders. You can step forward for a little bit more resistance. You can have offset feet, because as you pull forward, you don't want to fall forward and lose your balance. 10 to 15 repetitions right there can do a lot of good. Way to go. Fred is even taking the advice into the kitchen. Ooh, worked your way up to baked beans. Just last week you were on tomatoes. I'm impressed. Finding anything that we can do to offer a little bit of resistance to a pushing exercise can be very helpful. Fred here has been kind enough to demonstrate using some baked beans. I can try this with some coconut milk. And when we do a press, we want to start with our elbow tucked in at our side and our wrist kind of at our shoulder. And if you place your other hand on your belly, do you notice if you're tight or you're loose? We want to keep a tight core so that as we raise our hand up, we don't wobble from side to side, putting ourselves at risk for injury. Picking up our can, setting it here like you're a waiter, and then just real gently, can we press up, keeping our elbow in front of us, maybe at a 45-degree angle from our shoulder. We don't want it to get too far out here, because that also doesn't have a lot of stability. So in front to 45 degrees, gentle press to your range of motion. We don't have to go straight arms overhead. Bonus points, of course, if you do, but find out where you're able to lift. Even just a couple inches of raising your hand above your shoulder will develop these shoulder muscles a lot and help you over the long term maintain range of motion for your shoulders. The bench press is classic, of course, and we don't need to do it with a bar or big heavy dumbbells. And we can also do it with a can of soup or even a light weight. For those of us who are able to lie down on a bench, we could do this from our couch. We could do this from our bed. Same principle as the shoulder presses. I want to start with my hand more or less at about the level of my nipple with my arms tucked in at my sides. I don't want my elbow to flare out here because I have a lot less control and stability in the shoulder. Opposite hand on our belly to make sure that we're organized. Can I gently press up to a straight arm and gently come back down, elbow tucked in at our side, at most a 45-degree away from our body. So if you're to notice how it looks from this angle, there's a slight gap in my armpit, but my elbow isn't flared out all the way to here. Press up 10 or 15 times with the weight that's comfortable for wherever your body's at. I'm sure you're all wondering, does Dr. Bybee break a lot of bike tires? And the short answer is, I used to. And so I have a plethora of bike tires. Please ask me if you'd like me to bring one into the office for you. We can also use these spare bike tires or rubber bands to do a pressing exercise as well. They're very convenient because they're light and you can hook them onto a doorknob. We can do this from standing. I find it helpful to be able to connect the ground to our place of action or our place of strength. We find a comfortable tension in the rubber band. Our hand starts at our rib cage, ears over shoulders over hips, shoulders down and back, and I'm going to reach forward, trying to keep my forearm parallel to the ground and my elbow at a fairly close distance to my side. Once again, I'm not letting my elbow flare out because that puts the rotator cuff at risk. We don't want to do that. Push forward. Bonus points. You can take a little bit of a stagger stance, and as you push, can you twist at the hips? That way, we're engaging a little bit of our core as well. As Fred here is demonstrating, we can even use the back of our couch or our favorite chair as resistance to do some pushing exercises for our chest, arms, and shoulders, as well as a version of a plank for those of us who have a hard time getting down to the ground and to the top of a push-up position. So, Frank, do you mind if I take over and give some pointers to the crowd? Using a sturdy object like a counter, back of a couch, or back of a chair that's not going to move, or even a wall, we can do some pushing exercises to help strengthen up our chest, shoulders, and triceps. So putting our hands on the surface and walking our feet back to a comfortable distance where we still feel in control. We're going to try to keep our ears in line with our shoulders, in line with our hips, in line with our ankles, and letting gravity pull us down till we get to a spot where we still feel in control and would be able to push ourselves back. We can get in 10 to 15 repetitions of some counter push-ups. If we're still feeling that we've got plenty of energy and we want to try to strengthen up our core muscles, then we can also use that same surface to do planks. Back to our old favorite towels, once again wrapped around a pole, wrapped around a door handle, using a knot and putting it in a door jamb. And we can do some squats. We want to kind of lean back, and then we're going to gently kind of set our butt down. Notice how I'm trying to keep my chest upright. And we just kind of go down until we feel our own comfortable range of motion. I don't want anybody to go down further than their legs can tolerate and collapse. That's not good. So just real gently sit your butt back. Try to keep your knees wide. We don't want to let our knees collapse. And the more we load up our glutes, our buttock muscles, the stronger it's going to help our lower back. So can we get 10 or 15 towel squats? You'll notice that after a couple weeks, you can get lower and lower. I know you're tired of me talking about brooms, Fred, and no, I'm not a witch. I just happen to find that most people have one in the house, and they're a pretty useful device to keeping the body moving. Another reason I like brooms is that after we've swept the kitchen floor, we can use them to help maintain mobility and strength in our legs. We can start off with a broom-assisted lunge or split squat. Usually you start with a comfortable distance between your legs, holding on to the broom, and it doesn't matter which hand the broom is in so much, whatever feels most comfortable to you. And with our hips mostly parallel, I don't want to be turned at the hips. I want my hips to track. I've got a strong back foot. I'm driving in with my toes. Can I kneel down and using the broom, push myself back up, trying to keep an upright torso? I don't want to lean forward and compromise my lower back. That's why we have the broom here to push against. The distance you'll need to take between your feet is something you'll have to discover for yourself. You can start with your feet together, take a big step, put the broom just a little bit in front of you, and lower yourself down as much as possible to your knee. Drive your broom into the ground with your arm and stand up. Bring your legs together if needed for balance before stepping back. Once again, if you can't get to your knee comfortably or safely or with control, then we don't need to. Go down until you find your range of motion and stand up. Active back toes. Trying to extend that ankle. Can we do 10 or 15 repetitions with our broom lunges? Well, we have our broom, and if we feel so motivated as to try to strengthen our lower back and hips, we can do some broom-assisted hinges. This is very close to a deadlift, but we're using a broom to help us if we're not ready to pick up weights. We'll start with a good posture. I'm got a gentle tension through my belly and my back. I don't want to be rounded at the back. I also don't want to be arched at the back. I try to think about squeezing just a little bit to pull my rib cage down into my hips. Once I've got my broom arm's length in front of me with a gentle bend in the knee, I'm going to push down with my hands and push the broom into the ground and stick my butt back. It's okay to let your arms come forward and the broom have a little bit of an angle until we find our range of motion, and then we're going to, as much as possible, use our hips to pull us back up, but we've got our hands to assist and balance, and we bring our hips up and forward. Notice that the curvature of my spine didn't change. One way you can tell if you are keeping a good neutral spine is by placing one hand on your belly, and as you go back, does the distance between your thumb and your pinky change, or is the distance between the thumb and your pinky closing? So that was a good rep where this distance didn't change, but notice that if I don't push my butt back enough and I'm rounding at the spine, then my hand collapses. So, and my spine rounds. We don't want to do this because this is putting tension on the discs of our back, and for people with herniated discs can create some pain. So one hand on the belly to make sure that you're not collapsing your belly. We're going to keep ears over shoulders, over hips, gentle tension in the core, gentle bend in the knee, driving the hand through the broom into the floor. I'm sticking my butt back until I find my particular range of motion, and then using those hips, pulling myself up and pulling my hips underneath my shoulders. Can we get 10 or 15 repetitions in of this exercise? As we get stronger and we feel more confident in our balance doing our hip hinges, then we can just hold on to the broom. We can keep it resting on the front of our hips. Some of us might find the weight of the dustpan a little bit excessive, so we can set this aside for our advanced practitioners. Once again, with ears over shoulders, over hips, we're going to put a gentle bend in the knees. We're not going to let our belly and our back round. We're going to keep this space the same and our back nice and straight. We push our butt back and we let the broom glide down in front of our knees until we find out how far down we feel comfortable and safe and in control. Once we get to our end of the range of motion, I want you to think about pushing the earth away from you with your feet and pulling your hips forward and your shoulders back until we're ears over shoulders over hips with a nice neutral controlled spine. Once again, gentle bend in the knee, stick your butt back, letting that broom graze your knees. You don't have to go all the way to your knees. You go down as low as you feel comfortable and in control. Hover here for a breath. This is how you know you're in control. Check your belly to make sure that your spine's in a good position. Stand back up by pushing the earth away from you and pulling your hips back underneath your shoulders. Fantastic. You've been enjoying doing the couch push-ups and couch planks? Doing wonders for your core. Yeah, you've lost a few inches on your waist. You're down to like a 3-inch waist. That's impressive. Most people do planks from the ground at the top of a push-up position or from their elbows, but some of us have a hard time getting there. And so from standing, leaning up against the couch, we'll do the same thing as we did with the push-ups, walk our feet back to a comfortable distance. And what I really want you to focus on is trying to push your hands down to the ground and try to put tension through the anterior part of your body as if you're trying to pull your hands into your body. You should feel some tension through your abdominal muscles. We don't want to let our butt sink back. We don't also want to let our hips sink down. We want to keep a nice straight line. Can we hold this position for as long as we can? If that's 5 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, that's fine. Our goal is to build up to 1 minute every day. So if we do 20 seconds, take a break for 20 to 30 seconds, get back into our position, count down another 20. Maybe in the second set, you only get to 15 before you lose control. That's fine. Take a break. And you keep doing this until you add up to a total of 60 seconds or 1 minute in the exercise. When thinking about core, we want to make sure that we're thinking about our core all the way around. We have muscles that control how we twist and muscles that control how we lean side to side, as well as our back muscles that help keep us upright. So we can use the back of this chair for back planks. Putting our hand on the surface, we walk our feet out until Either the restriction in our shoulder or our balance tells us that this is as far as we want to go. And once we're here, we want to squeeze the muscles of our back and our gluteus maximus to try to point our hips up at the sky. Get a good squeeze, and just like in the front planks that we were doing, hold this as long as possible, building up to a minute. After 20 seconds, if you need to take a break, that's fine. Woo, take a break, reset, walk your feet out, do another 15, 20, 25 seconds, take a break, and add up to a whole minute for each exercise. Then we want to work our side planks. So pushing against our couch with a straight arm. We've got a nice straight line through our neck, spine, hips, and feet, and we just gently walk our feet out until we feel some tension in the side of our body. And we hold it here as long as we can, as long as we feel in control. Take a break and repeat until we've built up 60 seconds on both our left and our right side. Once again, in this session, Fred and I have covered the basics of body strengthening and mobility, which is push, pull, core, and legs. In a separate video, we'll continue to talk about how to develop these basic concepts. But for now, I would like you to all experiment and find out which of these exercises are going to work for you, and try to do each exercise 10 to 15 times twice a week. You don't have to do each of these exercises all on the same day, but just over the course of the week, can you build up to doing each exercise twice, 10 to 15 times, and repeat each exercise 2 or 3 times for a total of 20 to 30 repetitions.